all over the world, for standing out, for wanting to make a difference in Nigeria. I don't need any special introduction. My name is Chinyere Unom, and I'm privileged to be here, courtesy, first, God Almighty, and second, our mentor, goodness. Thank you very, very, very much. So we'll be talking on classroom management. And I know that you agree with me that this kind of topic is not a 1 hour topic. Sometimes it's a 3-day training, sometimes a week training. So please, we are going to be doing just a summary, just to remind ourselves what we already know, share something that you don't know before, and also hopefully motivate you to do better than you've been doing for this new session. So I'll be sharing my slides with you. Can you see the next one? Yes, now I thought this was going to be a Zoom meeting. So my expectation of you in this training, I thought it was going to be a Zoom meeting, so ignore the first point. The second point said, get your writing material ready. The third point said, put on your listening ears. We are teachers, we are always children. What we tell our pupils to do, we also should learn how to do them. Then share emojis and respectful comments and contribution in the chat box when questions are asked, so that we can work as a team. And the last thing I want you to do, and I expect of you to do, is for you to put into practice whatever you have learned. So our learning objective for this particular training, our learning objective number 1 is that we are going to, by the end of this training, we will all get to explain classroom management and behavior management. We'll also get to identify reasons why children misbehave, and we will also create our own classroom positive environment. And there are different ways we can do that as teachers. So why do we set out? I'm sure some of you will be wondering, why does she have a learning objective? It's because we intend to achieve something by the time we are finishing this training. And I'm hoping that you're making up your mind that this training will be beneficial to you. I need us to put on our thinking caps, and I need you to remember that as a teacher, there are many things that we already know in our classroom, or we have experienced so far in our classrooms. Number one reminder that I want to do with us this evening is for us to remember that misbehavior is a challenge that we all face in our classrooms. If you have experienced misbehavior from pupils in your class, can you please give me a thumbs up on the comment sections? I'll be seeing it. And number 2 reminder is that every child is different and unique. Therefore, we must see them from different perspectives, the uniqueness that they have. The first speaker talked about not being biased as a teacher, both to yourself and to the pupils, and I need us to put that in mind. The third thing I'm needing to remind you of is that your personality as a teacher determines how you respond to pupils' behavior. So if you're naturally an angry person, trust me, you're going to be shouting a lot, and you're going to be getting a lot of headaches shouting on your pupils. So your personality is something you need to think about and assess. The fourth thing is that change is something that is constant. And as a teacher, you must make up your mind that your own change will be positive change. Now, when I started this this session, I made mention of the fact that classroom management is a broad topic. It's not a topic you do under 1 hour, but we're going to do like a quick brush up and hope that we'll get something from it. There's a difference between classroom management and behavior management. I am on slide 4, and I can share from here if you don't mind. Thank you. Classroom management involves all aspects of what is going on in the classroom. And I want us to take note of all aspects. While a lesson is being taught, it includes how the teacher delivers the curriculum and how the students interact with the teacher and with others in the classroom. This is a broad definition. Another school of thought believe that it extends to the classroom environment in which students learn. So classroom management is all the aspects, everything about your classroom. The atmosphere of your classroom, the display boards in your classroom, your attitude as a teacher in the classroom, your classroom arrangements, all aspects, your teaching, how you are able to master your curriculum content, how you're able to deliver it to meet each child's individual needs. So you say all aspects, then deliver the curriculum and also interact with the pupils, how you're able to create a safe, positive environment for people to thrive and learn and achieve their potential or even discover themselves, where their self-esteem is boosted and motivated. So your classroom environment is very, very important in classroom management. Behavior management. Behavior management is about having strategies in place to support children to behave in ways that help them gain the most of their schooling. So sometimes we say a child is not behaving well, so we kind of shun the child or ignore the child. As a result, that child is not gaining anything from coming to school. As a teacher, it's our responsibility to be able to manage our behavior. Huxley is of the school of thought. He considers building positive learning relationship and motivating children that it helps in effective behavior management. So if you are the kind of teacher that always kind of lash out on pupils in your class or learners or children in your class, whichever one you're comfortable using, you will not create a positive atmosphere. If you don't have a good, if your learners or your pupils don't see you from the gate and they are running to you or they're excited to see you, then I need you to think about why you are really in the classroom or in the school environment. It's important that the atmosphere of your classroom is safe, it's motivating, it's conducive. It helps the learner to be able to thrive and be effective, to become better in whatever they are doing. Evidence-based practice for classroom management. One of the things that I want us to note, number one, this has been practiced, and some of you will agree with me, some of you that are effective teachers, maximize structure in your classroom. What do I mean by structure? Your classroom layout, the way you organize your classroom, the way you do your display boards. The reason for display boards and not for colorful papers is for you to first create expectation in the hearts of the pupils that are coming into your class. Children move from one class to the other. The way you structure your classroom helps with transition for every child. Transition is not easy from one class to another. Number 2 point says establish and teach expectations. Now, there was something my teacher's daughter did that I'm so grateful for. What she did was, towards the end of third term, she will take her to the next class. She's going to the next class that she'll be going to this September, to tell her, just to show her, like, this is how your next class may look like. And that alone is a motivating factor for that child to look forward. So her previous teacher is now creating expectation, making transition easy. That's part of classroom management. That's a teacher that thinks ahead. Number 3, actively engage students in observable ways. So when you set clear expectations, which is what we are going to be looking at in the next few slides, you engage them and observe how they respond to the expectations that you have set, which we are going to look at next. Establish a continuum of strategies, number 4, to acknowledge expected behavior. So you can create a reward chart, a behavioral plan, whichever one, depending on what you think you may experience or you're experiencing in your classroom. So you're putting those strategies that can help you. For example, if you have to set expectations by, let's say, creating class rules or routines, if you give an example that say kind hands and feet, or put your hands and feet to yourself, those strategies help to curb unexpected behaviors like pinching, fighting, punching. Number 6, use self-reflection and behavior data to progress monitor and problem solving, like solve problems in your class. That is this point is related to point 4, the strategies you put in place. Keep chart on them. So let's say a child behaves well today, maybe you give a thumbs up or a star. Just keep a chart, a behavioral chart, and monitor it, see the progress. If you have created a behavioral plan for a particular child, you also monitor it. You can say, in the last 3 months, that's the data. This happened to this child, and we have been able to solve this problem or that problem. So you keep tabs on it. And sometimes, if you're a lazy teacher, it will be difficult to combine managing your classroom properly to achieve positive results and delivering the content of the curriculum that you need to get across the child. The truth is that if you don't manage your classroom properly, you will be unable to deliver your content properly. I will repeat that again. If you do not manage your classroom properly and manage behaviors in your classroom properly, you will be unable to achieve your curriculum content. Number 7 says, create routines that will reduce loss of instructional time. Sometimes we spend a lot of time saying, sit down, keep quiet, don't talk. And the more we say that, we are losing time. So 40 minutes lesson, you have spent like 10 minutes correcting 2 or 3 children. But if you have created a routine, examples of routine will be when you get into the class, maybe in the morning when they resume, for example, instead of children just playing and making noise, you create a routine. Submit your homework. There's a homework space while you're managing your classroom that everyone submits homework. Do your devotion, class devotion. If it's a Christian school, it's not a Christian school, do your multiplication table. Maybe there's a chart on the wall. So those routines reduce loss of instructional time. So if they have to transit from one lesson to another, also you can tell them what to do. So routines are important in classroom management. My next point is design physical classroom environment to elicit expected behavior and ensure adequate supervision of all areas. So the essence of display boards is not to put colorful papers. I've said that before. The essence of display boards is first to give a quick summary of topics or areas where children struggle in the term. For example, if you are teaching year 2, basic 2, whichever one you call it, you will agree with me that 3-column subtraction or 2-column subtraction or addition can be quite difficult. You can do a display board to address such topic early. And so when you see school owners or proprietors telling you to do display boards twice in a term, is not out of place. The first half term, you do display boards that will capture at least one topic in literacy, numeracy, science that you think your pupils may struggle with. Is part of managing your class. You are thinking ahead. You are managing anything that may reduce instructional time, that may cause distractions in your class. So you put it up. For example, in science, if you think that there is no way you are going to teach parts of a tree or photosynthesis for children to understand from the beginning of term, either tell them to get a seed to plant, or you put it up at display board, or you do both. So ensure adequate supervision of all areas. You tell them, when you come in, put your lunchbox here, put your school bag there. When you come in, this is area for homework. So person in charge of homework, the other person is in charge of this. When children take responsibilities and know what is expected of them, the class is actually well and more organized, and the curriculum content is achieved. Designate staff and student areas. Most schools have teaching assistants. Please, you will be unfair to your teaching assistant if you leave her dormant to just be marking for you. Work as a team. Designate areas, pupils in your class. If you do differentiation, you'll be in charge of these children, and these are the materials to use. It will help to manage your class properly. Differentiate your children according to their learning activity. It also helps to manage your class. The third thing is minimize crowding and distractions by arranging your furniture to allow easy traffic flow. Now, if your class is not properly, I just gave this example, there are different ways, in rows, in curves, there are different ways. We'll see it in the next slide. If you chunk children together in rows, when somebody wants to pass, you'll be hearing things like, excuse me, can you move your chair? Can you do this? But if you arrange them like in fours, where you can have a passway in the middle, at the side, from every corner, as a teacher and as a teaching assistant, you can assess your class. So your furniture classroom arrangement is very important. Their seating strategy is also very, very important. Classroom arrangement, their seating arrangement. The choice of seating depends on the number of class members and the activities you intend to do. You can do in curves, you can do in a circular motion, you can do horizontally or vertically. It's important that you arrange your classroom to be able to allow proper supervision from both the teacher and the teaching assistants. I've talked about classroom decorations. Your display board should address expected behavior, should address curriculum content, should address your classroom culture and atmosphere. Those are the things you should do as a teacher. Proper lighting and ventilation, especially during this period of raining season. Classrooms can be quite dark. It's important that every class has proper lighting. So a child is struggling to read because it's raining, there's no proper lighting, so everywhere is dark, and you're shouting on the child and telling the child to read loud, and you're shouting. How do you expect the child to? That's not proper classroom management. That child cannot deliver your expectation at that time because you have not managed your class properly. Lighting and ventilation. Some children will suffocate, some children have eye problem, so they need proper lighting to be able to see. Ventilation in the classroom. Let the windows be open if your school don't have AC or fan. Some children just, once they are hot, they're uncomfortable. We're adults. You can agree with me that when you're hot, you're uncomfortable. You're not even thinking straight. You're not thinking well because the environment is very hot. There is no proper ventilation. Strategies for refining your classroom management ability. Now you're beginning to think in yourself, what's she talking about? All these things we're doing it. All these things we know them. Now I need you to do something for me. Review what you're already doing. I need you to take a second or 2-3 seconds. Think about what you have been doing in your class as a teacher. Now, complete a self-assessment checklist. Most times we teachers are not honest to ourselves. If they give you a self-assessment to complete, you just want to think everything good. The first place I taught, I'll tell this story quickly. My boss always used to enter the classroom impromptu. She would just enter and sit down. She would have marked your lesson plan or gone through your lesson plan. She would sit down and watch you teach. And when she's giving us feedback about the assessment, I hear some teachers get angry. Please, your point of view is not to get angry. It's to first check if what the person is saying is the truth. Did I really deliver what I put down in my lesson plan? Did I really follow the procedure? So now, when we are doing our own self-assessment in this particular training, I need you to be honest with yourself. Video yourself teaching. Sometimes put a video on and listen to yourself after teaching and see what you have done well. Reflect on your teaching. The next point is ask a trusted colleague or mentor to observe you and provide feedback and data. I must be very honest with you. As I'm doing this training, I have 2 people that are going to give me feedback on my training aside my mentor. That's being honest to yourself, to know where you have done well, where you need improvement, and where you have not done well. You reflect on what you have done. Ask a teacher to observe you, who you think is strong or has better skills in the areas you're struggling with, especially in classroom management. Ask questions. Number 2, identify an area for growth and set reasonable goal. When you resume this session, set goals that are achievable. Goals on how to reinforce positive behavior, motivate your children, and also give positive narrations where necessary. We'll be looking into that shortly. And the third point is monitor your progress. Monitor your progress. Think about, am I better than the teacher I used to be last session? So I'll give us 1 minute to reflect on this particular slide. What do you think and where are you? While we're thinking at it, I have a quick activity for us to do, and I need you to look at it and be honest. In this activity, if your answer is yes, I'm not sure you can see it, but I will read it out and I need you to listen. If your answer is yes, you put up 1 finger like this. If it's no, don't put up any finger. At the end of the question I'm asking, count how many yeses you have on your finger. I will go through my instruction again. For activity 1 for self-assessment, if I read out the question and you think is a yes, put up 1 finger. You don't need to show anybody. If it's a no, don't put up any finger, and you count how many yeses you have. And I will read. The first one, my first assessment question, I'll just give just 5. There are like 10 of them here, but I'll give just 5. I have arranged my classroom to minimize crowding and distractions. Yes or no? I have maximized, number 2, I have maximized structure in my classroom. I have created routines and classroom expectations. Class rules, yes or no? The next question. I have provided each student with multiple opportunities to respond and participate during learning or during teaching. Yes or no? That's 3 questions. And the 4th question is, I actively supervise the pupils in my classroom. Yes or no? And the last one is, I give positive feedback without labeling or naming any child when there is misbehavior, yes or no. Now on the comment section, share. If you have 5 over 5 yeses, thumbs up. 4 yeses, thumbs up. 3 yeses, good. 2, 1 or no yes, you need improvement. You need to work on that as a teacher. So I'll wait for us to share quickly on the comment section. What are your thoughts? Before we proceed, what are your thoughts about this self-assessment and where exactly are you? Are you ready to make changes? If yes, well done. So that's behavior management. Behavior management. Our culture, especially those of us who are Nigerians, our personality and the way we respond to things, our values, belief systems, attitudes, actually pattern our thinking and affect the way we behave. The truth is that if you have lived in a family where dad and mom are always shouting to correct behavior, trust me, you're going to shout. Or there's one, dad and mom may not be shouting, but there's one auntie that the house help or the support staff is always shouting. Trust me, that child is going to shout. That child is going to learn how to start shouting. So most times, children come to us. The first speaker talked about every child has potential to learn, very true. And most children come to us blank. So her topic is quite interesting to me, co-creators with God. The first people that are supposed to write in the heart of a child are the parents. But in this Generation Z, parents don't have time anymore. We teachers are the next set of people to write in the heart of these children because they come into this world blank. Early years teachers, I challenge you to write positively in the heart of the children that pass through your hands because you actually lay the foundation, even more than the parents. These children, these pupils, they spend more time with you. Now we said that children misbehave. This child is always misbehaving. No well-trained, blah, blah, blah. Yes, interesting. Now, why do children misbehave? Children misbehave because they don't have the skills. I want us to look at the picture of this cute boy that I put up in the slide. I don't know if you can help me spotlight that particular slide on why children misbehave, please. Children misbehave first because of previous knowledge, the kind of family they're coming from. Second, their level of development. 0 to 5 years old have very short attention span, so there's a tendency to forget misbehavior. So there's a tendency to forget instructions, their family personality. So there are many reasons, but I will just speak on just 2 reasons. The 2 major reasons I want to talk on why children misbehave. First, they do not have the skills to behave well. And it is our duty as teachers to teach them the skills to behave well. Secondly, children also misbehave because they want to get attention from us as teachers. So you will agree with me that if we as teachers manage behavior well, it will create a safe, a respectful, and a positive learning environment for all pupils. How can we manage behavior? So I am one of the trainees with the University of Buckingham, and I've been training teachers for a very long time. What happened to this slide? Okay, I'll use mine here. I've been training teachers for a very long time, but I find these 3 steps of behavioral management circle quite interesting. And I'm really sorry that I think when I sent it to the mentor, somebody tampered with that particular slide. But I will say it. So I'm using the behavior management circle that I learned while doing this course, and I find it quite interesting because it worked for me more than all the other behavioral management strategies and approach I've used in the past. And they are called the behavior management circle. And in behavior management circle, the first thing is to set clear expectations. Can you help me go to the next slide, please? The first thing is to set clear expectation. Letting students know what to do and what is expected of them. When you are setting clear expectations, you must make sure that the expectations are clear, they are specific, they are contextual, and they are consistent. For example, when you put up your class rules, some people call it class rules. I prefer to say, in this class, we put on our listening ears, keep our hands and feet to ourselves, put up your hands for questions. So it helps when you make it clear, when you're specific about it, and when you're consistent, reminding them about it. It makes it easy for the pupils to learn or know what is expected of them. Guidelines for creating class rules. They must be few in number. So sometimes we put almost 10 class rules. It's difficult for me as an adult to cram 10 things in my head. How much more children in primary or early years? Secondary, they can cram. So number one point when creating class rules is that it must be few in number, it must be specific and observable, it's something that is doable. Number 3, positively stated. Positively stated means you don't say, don't talk or stop shouting. The best thing to say about shouting is use your indoor voice. So now, for example, if you are talking and I say, don't talk, or I say, use your indoor voice, which one would you naturally respond to? So if you tell a child, don't talk, what the child is thinking, if it's a mischievous child, is, so if I don't talk, what's next? What do you want me to do? But if you tell a child, use your indoor voice, that child is still wanting to express him or herself, but at the same time, learning a positive behavior, having an alternative way to shouting. That is setting clear expectation. In creating class rules, you must be positive about it. Use your indoor voice. Keep your hands and feet to yourself. Those are very positive, and they help the child to know what to do. The expectations are clear. Be consistent about it. Sometimes when you want to start your teaching as a teacher, you can point them to the classroom. When you are teaching and a child is misbehaving, you can do eye contact and send the child with your eye to the classroom or what is expected of them, or in this classroom. Just use body language, whatever it is you think works for any of the child in the class. They will respond to you. For example, eyes on the speaker, examples of class rules or what you do in your class. Eyes on the speaker, raise your hand to answer, hands and feet to yourself, use your indoor voice. I've given all of that as your example. Behavior management circles, the second point is reinforcing positive behavior using positive narration. Now, the first point is setting clear expectation. The second step to managing behavior is reinforcing positive behavior using positive narration. For effectiveness, positive narration should first be used immediately after the pupil show the expected behavior. So positive reinforcement is, I want to think of a proper scenario. Well done, Cynthia, for sitting quietly. Adekunle tidied up his sitting area. Keep that up. Waiting for the rest of you to tidy up your sitting area. For example, if it's after break or after lunch time. So you reinforce positive behavior rather than say, whose corner is this dirty? Who has this here? No, you look for those of them with clean environment. And you say, well done, Adekunle, for tidying up your eating area. Waiting for the rest of you to tidy up your environment. And well done, Cynthia, for hanging your school bag in the right place, and looking forward for the rest of you to put your bags in the right place. Such kind of positive reinforcement encourages children. In my house, for example, I have toddlers, and sometimes when they're eating, they're just chit-chatting. And sometimes if any of them is quiet, I'll say, oh, well done for sitting quietly to eat, or well done for observing good table manners. The next person is wanting to show such behavior. Same with classrooms. So use it immediately after they show such behavior. If a child should put up their hand to answer a question and the rest of them are shouting out answers, you can positively reinforce the behavior of the child who put up his or her hand, rather than say, all of you put down your hands. Nah. The best thing to do is, oh, well done, Linda, for putting up your hand. That alone, you make the rest of them to stop shouting out answer, and they'll put up their hand. Let your reinforcement be specific. Point at the behavior, not just say well done. Provide frequently and it should be provided frequently and consistently throughout the day. Don't do it today and leave it for the next day. Sometimes also when you're teaching and you give a class work or a group work, you can say, I can see Esther underlining new words from the text. The rest may just be chatting, talking, but the person listening and following the rule is the person you're going to reinforce positive behavior with. Step 3 says, correcting off-task behavior using logical consequences. Pupils are corrected immediately when they move away from the expected behavior. So immediately they move away from the expected behavior, you do what? You correct them. So I'll go back to the 3 behavioral management circle that I have learned recently, and it has worked for me. The first one is to set clear expectation. The second one is to reinforce positive behavior using positive narration. The third one is to correct off-task behavior using logical consequences. So I'm just recapping, trying to recall that point again so that we can take our notes. Positive behavior management has a range of benefits. They have a range of benefits. Number 1 benefit of positive behavior management. It models appropriate and expected behavior to pupil. As a teacher, you have to model the behavior you want your children to have. So, for example, if you say use your indoor voice, you cannot. It will not be correct to shout a teacher's name from your classroom. Excuse me, that will be unacceptable as a teacher. You must model the behavior to the children. So you can't tell them to use their indoor voice and you're shouting, Mrs. Adekunle, from your class to the next class. I'm not sure that's good modeling. Number 2 point, it creates a calm and positive learning environment in which pupil can thrive. When you correct in a positive manner, your learning environment is safe, is motivating for pupils in your class. It promotes good social and communication skill. You can see that your children will be able to talk to you. They can interact with you. You can interact with them. When a child wants to express him or herself, they're not bowing their head down because they can't look at you, because you have taught them how to communicate properly and you can relate well with them. The next point is it improves students' classroom participation and engagement. When you have a safe classroom and positive environment, trust me, the children are going to participate. They will engage in whatever you're teaching. They will even tell you from their own perspective, and that will help you to be able to teach from what they already know to the unknown. It is good for staff well-being. If you're not able to manage your class properly, trust me, you're going to be a shouting teacher. Yes, and you are not going to feel well. Imagine you shouting the whole day. By the end of the day, you're having headache, you're having migraine, you're uncomfortable, you're feeling sick. But when you manage your classroom properly and you manage behavior properly, and you have created routines and the set expectations are clear and the children are following it, then you will discover at the end of the day, you're still feeling good as a teacher. You're not stressed out. Even if you are stressed out, you are a happy teacher. So in doing that, you must maximize instructional learning time. You must also notice that if you as a teacher, you're happy with your pupils and your pupils are happy with you, there's greater achievement and success in the academics. And you as a teacher, your sanity is clear. You're not ending the day feeling very unhappy or sick. So the third point in the behavior management circle is correcting off-task behavior using logical consequences. And that's a whole lot of training on its own, but I just picked this part to share my own story using logical consequences. Logical consequences are the responses that logically follow or relate to the misbehavior. So the higher the misbehavior, the higher the consequences. The lower the misbehavior, the lower the consequences. So we must be able to give logical consequences to higher level of misbehavior. Also, it's important to know that when a child, so there are levels of misbehavior from high to medium to low to scenario. Like I said, is a huge training on its own, but because of our time, I'm going to speak it. I will tell you my story about using logical consequences. But before I do that, there are fun facts about logical consequences. It's a process. Logical consequence is a process, it's not a destination. And by the time I tell you my story, you understand what I mean by the fact that it's a process. Logical consequences should be implemented logically. It should increase according to the misbehavior of the child. I've mentioned that earlier. It should be quick. A child should not do something in the morning and you're disciplining the child during break. That's not correct. It should be quick immediately. It should be consistent. It should be implementable. So you cannot say implementable. You can't say, oh, you did not submit your homework or you did not do your classwork, so you're going to stay in this school till midnight. Excuse me, that's not implementable, for crying out loud. There's no way that child can stay in school till midnight. You're not controlling your action at that moment as a teacher. You're not managing the behavior well, neither are you managing your classroom. The best thing to do when a child is behaving, give them appropriate consequences for the behavior. Let them know that there are consequences for every misbehavior in life. Now my story. So in one of the schools that I have worked with and taught in, we had these constant issues of children running on the corridor. So, we're having lots of injuries because children will bump into each other. So at that point, I started thinking of ways to solve the problem of running on the corridor. The school behavioral policy slide, please. So nearly everybody saw it as a normal behavior. So I needed to set an expectation for the school. It became a school expectation, no longer a classroom expectation. And I would say this, every school should have a school behavioral policy. So when I saw that happening, I decided to implement logical consequences. But before I implemented logical consequences, the first action that I took was to have a conversation with the class with the highest rate of running on the corridor. We had a conversation, we talked about dangers of running on the corridor, and they got excited about it. One of them now said, "Ma, can we present it on Friday assembly?" And I said, yes, we can. I never thought of presenting it, but this suggestion came from the child because the classroom was safe. At that moment, the atmosphere was good. So conversation about safety and dangers of running on the school corridor was held in one of the class assembly, and one of the classes educated the rest of the school about dangers of running on the corridor. Between September to February, the number of people running on the corridor reduced drastically, and I'll just give you a quick estimate. Let's say, for example, we had 100 people or 90 people running on the corridor. By the time we had this education from one of the classes to the whole school on one of the assemblies, let's say this was done in September, by February, we had nearly 90% or over 90% of the pupils in our school walking safely and smartly on the school corridor. Injuries declined in drastic measures, and everybody is happy. My second experience about using logical consequences is that I had to develop a behavioral plan for a child who was bullying other children. So sometimes class rules are not enough. Sometimes you may have to do one-on-one with a child who is misbehaving, who is not meeting expectation. You need to find out why and be interested in that child. You need to show that child love and compassion. So while I was observing this child, I always get complaints, pinches, punches, fights, and I became curious on what the problem could be. So I started rewarding good behavior, most improved, best behave. We give certificates on the assembly to best behaved, most improved. And I started interacting with this child. While doing that, I discovered that this child needed attention. Remember, in one of the slides, I said the two major reasons why pupils misbehave. One, they lack the skills to behave well. Two, they need attention. I'll say it again. One, they lack the skills to behave well. Two, they need attention. So what I discovered about this particular child was, first, he needed attention. It was the other way around. He didn't lack the skill that much to behave well. He needed attention. And why I gave him the attention was to reinforce positive behavior. I started rewarding those that are best behaved in their class, and he got interested. Long story short, this child started wanting to get certificates. So he would see me on the corridor or come to my office and say, "Oh, Mrs. Unom, I behaved very well today. You can ask my teacher." So sometimes I would go to the teacher and ask. So I had to start talking with the teacher. Can we do this? How did he behave today? Can we do that? Can we do that? So you must work as a team in your schools to be able to correct misbehavior. And that's why I said every school should work on creating behavioral policy for their school. This particular child's class teacher did an amazing work working with me to make sure that this child improves in his behavior. Long story short, by the end of that session, I will tell you what we achieved. This child improved in behavior. Let's say his misbehavior was that poor, was very high, and his good behavior was very poor. So he improved in behavior from, let's say, 10-11% to 53 to 63%. And that's a great achievement for somebody whose behavior was that poor. And by the end of that session, he started getting best improved certificates. His handwriting became better because he started paying more attention. He was not copying no because he was busy poking other people with pencils and pinching people and fighting. So he was not using his hands correctly. One of the things we did, and I told the class chair to do, to always remind him to keep his hands and feet to himself. We took away a major object. So if she's teaching, pencils and not with this particular child until it's time to copy notes. And this child was brought to the teacher, close to the teacher's table. And one of the things we told the child, oh, you're going to be your teacher's personal assistant and you're going to sit close to your teacher. We saw tremendous results just implementing logical consequences for this child. And I think I will employ you to do so. Classroom management and behavior management are two different things, but they all both happen in our classrooms. And I will say that in classroom management, we manage the following: material, instructional time, time management, and classroom layout. In behavior management, we manage and reduce misbehavior. We teach and reinforce expected behavior. We also tell people consequences for their actions, for their misbehavior. And we also develop behavioral plans for chronic misbehavior. One of the only thing that is common for classroom management and behavior management is that they are both preventive. Next slide, please. Is that they are both preventive. They prevent unexpected behavior from happening. I'll go through it again. Behavior management reduces misbehavior, it reinforces expected behavior, and it also tells the children the consequences of their behavior. While classroom management manages materials, resources, teaching resources, manages instructional time, teaching time, and also create good atmosphere, safe environment, classroom layout for the pupils. The only thing they both have in common is that they both prevent something from happening. Now, as I reflect on my teaching and in preparing for this, next slide, please. As I reflect on it, this is my take home, and I don't know what your take home is. As I reflect on my practice as a teacher, I am reminding myself to be patient with pupils in my class, to love them, to care for them, to set expectations, to reinforce positive behavior. And I also need to have an excellent delivery of my curriculum content. Once I'm not able to teach properly, pupils in my class are distracted. I was also reminding myself that logical consequence is a process. It's not a destination, and it takes time. And while correcting misbehavior, I must focus on the action of the child and not the child. I'll say it again. When correcting misbehavior as a teacher, focus on action of the child and not the child. When correcting misbehavior, please focus on action of the child and not the child. Using the behavioral management circle helps the teacher to be in control. When you lash out and you shout, it means the child is in control. But when you manage misbehavior properly, then you as a teacher are in control. This is to say that punishment is not the best way to correct misbehavior. Rather, logical consequences works better. As a trained teacher, what are you going to do about handling misbehavior in your class or in your school? I need you to think about this. What are you going to do about that? Someone says, and the person's name is Fortune, you can find her if you have to, say, you'll be successful in getting students to control their behavior if you first control your own behavior. If you are not able to control your behavior as a teacher, you will not be able to get your students or your pupils to control their behavior. And I also need us to know that the child who needs the most love, we ask for it in the most unlovable ways. The child who needs the most love, we ask for it in the most unlovable ways. So when I say that, one of the major reasons why pupils in our classes misbehave is because they lack the skill to behave well, and they're also seeking for attention. And that's why they look for the most unlovable ways to ask us, to get our attention and ask us what we have inside. So as a teacher, the question I'm also posing to you is, what you have inside, you cannot give what you don't have. You cannot give what you don't have. So what do you have to give to the children? That's the question I'm asking you. What do you have to give to the children? Can we go to the reflective practice slide? Please, slide 27, activity 2. Take five minutes, maybe not up to 5, maybe take 2 minutes. I need you to reflect on what we have said, if you have gotten anything at all, which I'm hoping you have. Reflect on classroom management and behavior management. Type in the comment section 3 things you have learned or you have been reminded of, 2 things you want to pursue further, and 1 thing you will do immediately school resumes as a teacher. Please share your thoughts in the chat box. It will be very helpful to learn from you. The 4th thing I'm desiring you do is that you practice whatever you have learned. And the 5th thing I want you to do is to create a behavioral policy document if your school don't already have one. Can I go through it again? Write down in the comment section 3 things you have learned or 3 things you have been reminded of from this particular training, 2 things you want to pursue further. What's going on with my slide? It's slide 27. 3 things you have learned. I'm looking at the comment section. I'm yet to find so that I can learn from other people. Two things you want to pursue further. 1 thing you will do immediately. So I hope I've been able to communicate this to you. Thank you for listening. Thank you, everyone. Mentor, thank you for sharing your comments, and God bless you.